American genetics from a DNA testing, or that you go back to a certain genetic line. I don't know how you decipher these things, which is why nothing like this could ever function properly.
The left has already addressed this issue. They've already they call it transracial.
Transracial, right?
Yeah, and they vehemently condemn such things. So you are not allowed to do that. As a matter of fact, if you do that, you really degrade the people who really went through these things. As if, a man saying he's a woman doesn't degrade all of the hardships that women have supposedly fought, according to them, to get where they're at. So again, it's not hypocrisy. It's evil, demonic spirit. It fits the narrative, my progressive narrative. Blank's never about blank. It's always about fundamental change, which includes control, redistribution of wealth, and on you could go. This is more Marxist movement. It's never about what's logical. Teach them how to spend their money. Put them in a PhD course for 50 years. It's still not going to penetrate. They're going to spend that money, but it doesn't matter. None of these logical elements, they show that this thing is just ridiculous on its face. None of it matters, because it's all about wealth redistribution and controlling the masses, period. Not about race relations and peaceful coexistence and equality, but fundamental control.
Rodney, your thoughts?
I think it's the main thing is they want to spread racism, and this is just the way to keep on doing it. Is to spread racism. Number one, you are California, so there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens there. Yeah. The other one is, how can they afford it? It would destroy America's economy if they tried to do it. So I think it's just to spread a lot of racism and stuff.
That's not about spreading racism.
And I often ask myself, how does California afford half
that is the result? That's the result. You're conflating the result of this, the natural consequence, with the intent. The intent is massive wealth redistribution. Make no mistake. It behooves these people to get more people voting for them and more people depending on them. While they may profit and do absolutely profit from the crises in our cities with protests and BLM and Antifa, yes, absolutely. Well, they do profit from that, and they use that to their advantage. The intent is fundamental transformation, ultimate control through wealth redistribution. That's the intent, not to spread a bunch of racism and to create more racism. That's just the natural consequence.
Well, I believe it's to spread racism too. You're correct on what you're saying too, but I believe it is to spread racism. And
so you think that black guy that stands up at City Hall and says, we need 5 million, we deserve 5 million, he wants to spread, his intent is to make people racist.
Your political people are. That's the reason they do it. They want to spread racism.
Divide and conquer through racism is huge. I mean, it's definitely just as much of a motive, like you said. I mean, I agree. The wealth redistribution is a huge part of it. And because when you're enslaved financially, then that's a huge motive. But the divide and conquer through racism and the resegregation is just as much of a value of that to them, because when you divide and conquer, then we can't unite to stop it. So it's just as much of a benefit for them.
And they're trying to blame. They are trying to blame the white man and the white people for this scenario, and it really creates a lot of tension between these black and white individuals. I mean, it's real.
Well, you're asking what came first, the chicken or the egg, and I'll tell you, the full-grown chicken came first. And when they came up with these,
they're trying to say this is because of slavery, this is because of white people are evil. I mean, this is the message that they're spreading with this reparations legislation. Am I not? Can somebody tell me if I'm missing something? Isn't this whole reparations about white people being racist towards people of color years ago?
We're long down the road of pushing the racist narrative. It started back in FDR with the social programs and the disparity between races. And Lyndon Johnson, he really accelerated. And because of their ultimate control, wealth redistribution, they created the consequence of all this racism. And now they're capitalizing on it. And every day is an opportunity to keep it alive. Now, what they want to do is keep it alive. Absolutely. It's not about, I want to spread, because in their minds, they already have racism. They just want to keep the narrative alive. And that's it, because they're not spreading racism. They're just projecting it, because we're not a racist nation. We elected a black president twice, but they want to keep it alive. He's not
black. He had a white mom, white grandma, raised in a white neighborhood, never knew his black daddy, not really black. I mean, he's lighter than Will Smith. I mean, he's not really black, He's kind of like he's like a Paula Abdul, not black at all. Kind of like a Ben Simmons, not really black. Even way lighter than Ben Simmons. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
Whatever. But the point is, they continue to push the narrative that something exists because it's part of the Trojan horse. The climate change and the racist narrative. It's all the Trojan horse to bring in their Marxist ideology. But America is not a racist nation. But they're going to say we are. They can spread all they want. It's not working. They're not spreading.
I agree.
They're fomenting the anger and the lie.
I agree with you that we're not a racist nation. But I'm saying, what you're saying is true too. I'm saying both of us are pretty much right on this issue. I think it is to spread racism too. I believe it's the same thing. I believe they're doing it to spread it, to try to claim.
Let me ask you this. Let
me say something here. I know someone right now that just quit their job because of racism, because they're white, because they won't get a promotion because they're white. Right. That is spreading racism.
I don't doubt there are specific cases all over, on all sides, no question. But let me ask you: do you think they need racism in America to advance their agenda? Do they have to spread it and make more racism?
I think they do. I think they do.
You do? You seriously?
Yes.
Because I can tell you, there ain't racism in America, and they're spreading their agenda. They don't need squat. They don't need one single white guy to be a racist.
I don't know who you're around. I've got a lot of people that are different races that I'm friends with. But I'm telling you right now, I am seeing more people come against white people because they're white, which is racist.
I'm talking about white on black racism. Forget about it. I'm talking about white on black racism.
I'm seeing more black people in today's society going up against white people because they're white. I'm seeing that more because it's being claimed, it's being taught.
I'm talking about, do you think they need white people to actually be racist to capitalize off the narrative? The answer is clearly no. We can have the white people licking the boot like the Black Lives Matter thing. It doesn't matter. My point is this. They don't need racists in America. They're just going to tell you, and they're just going to keep it alive, and that's what they do. They're just going to capitalize on the narrative. I got news for you. It's like, do they need the earth to burn up? Because we're not burning up. I mean, you just got a ton of snow out there. Do they need hurricanes? Do they need crazy? It doesn't matter. They don't need any of it. Because
what they need. Here's the thing. What they need is
the narrative and the lie so that they can engage in their redistribution. They don't need racism. They're going to tell you, even though it's not there. That's my point.
Well, that's the thing.
Don't need it to be true.
I think
that's
you guys
the way the Democratic Party divides. I mean,
it's the same thing.
That's the thing.
But they're using it to spread it. Look at the kids right now that you're seeing that's beating up on white people. They're spreading. It's being taught.
My point is they don't need it. I asked, do they need white people to actually hate black people to advance their narrative? And the answer is no. They don't need that. They just need to tell you that's.
Come on, man, Greg. How can you sit there and say that when the Democratic Party is all about obsessing over
because you're not hearing what I'm saying.
That's all they obsess over.
You're not. So are you saying that white people hate black people all over America?
No. That's not what you're.
No, that's not.
But that's my point. That's my point.
They're trying to flame that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not true. My point is they do not need. You say they got to create all this racism. And I'm saying they don't need to create it because it doesn't matter. It's not here. They're going to tell you it's there. They don't need the actual racist.
The more they create that narrative, the more money they can make. The more money they can make, the more they can advance their agenda. The more.
Okay. But
I'm just saying that's their objective. They don't want peace. They don't want unity. They want to divide. Yeah, and one of the best ways to divide is by race. And this is exactly what they're doing. I'm correct here, am I not?
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
I'm listening to you.
What I'm saying is they do not need the actual white guy to shout the N-word at a bunch of black. They don't need the actual event. They don't need the racism. They don't need the real. Okay, what you and I would say is, what is a white guy? What is he a racist? What would he say if he was a racist? The neo-Nazi. They don't need any of those people. They'll just tell you they're out there, is my point. You understand what I'm talking about? They don't need the actual events. They don't need the reality that America is a racist nation. They're just going to tell you it is so they can do all of those things. It's not about the reality. It is about the narrative. It's about fundamental control and wealth redistribution. And my point is, they don't need racism in America. They will tell you it's here, whether it's here or not. It's just like they don't need crazy.
If they don't need it, then why do the Democrats talk about it every election cycle? That's all they talk about is how racism.
You're not understanding what I'm saying. If I had a chalkboard, I'd write it out for you. They need the narrative. Okay, the narrative. They don't need
the narrative.
action.
But the narrative
leads to it.
Is spreading it now.
Now you're making my point. You're making my point. They're creating
the narrative
it as a consequence, as a natural consequence. You're making my point exactly. But America, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken came first, and the eggs come afterwards.
Back
and it
in
creates
the
more chicken.
70s and 80s, we
this
saw racism.
This narrative. In the absence of the reality, we have the narrative in the absence of the reality, and then that really foments this anger and division and dissent among races. But they have to.
Let Rodney respond, and then I want to let Andy respond. Then I want to go to Matt because I know you guys all want to respond, and then we'll go back to you, Greg, so you can give the final.
Back in the 80s, there was a lot of racism from white people going on. There was. I spoke against it. I got life threats against my life as a minister coming out against Ku Klux Klan and everybody else. But then now I'm seeing racism from the other side more, from the black people towards white people. I'm seeing that, and I'm speaking out against that. I don't say, okay, but the narrative is spreading it. It is growing. Young people are more likely to have racism in them because that's all they're hearing now. The young people, the ones that's about ready to vote, that's what they're seeing. That's what they're spreading. Because you are correct. The Democrats have spread it. It has reflamed it back up again. It has grown. Overall, are we a racist country? No. That was dealt with years back. But it is spreading more now because of what the Democrats are doing. And you are right. They are spreading things and money around because they want us to be more of a socialist, communist kind of country. And they're doing that. But they are flaming and they are trying to grow racism. They're trying to birth it into people as much as possible. And I'm seeing it more in the black young people than I am white people.
And it's worse than the 1960s. It's the worst it's ever been. It's worse than the civil rights era. Andy, I'm going to go to you, then Matthew, and then Jim, and then I'll go back to you, Greg. Andy, go ahead. I know you want to respond.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, you guys are essentially saying the same thing, just in a different way, because you're right. Mm-hmm. This country is not a racist place. Coming from Kansas, I have a lot of rural community, and seeing the studies of especially immigrants that come from all over the world, and they did a study on how rural communities across the nation handle migrants, and they're the most friendliest, non-racist in the world because they work together, they assimilate together. It's a community together. So we're not a racist nation. However, they need that narrative. Like you said, the narrative creates racism because what always happens when a narrative sits there and you start isolating people away, just like we did with COVID, or like we do with racial groups, or like we do with wealthy people versus poor people, or whatever kind of separation or identity politics we want to play here, that the narrative creates that mindset. When we see colleges starting to resegregate people in dorm rooms based on skin color, then guess what? When you start dividing, then you don't know the other group. When you're unaware of the other group, then you fear the other group. When you fear the other group, then you hate the other group. When you hate the other group, that's when the violence starts. And that's the routine and the cycle we're starting to go down again, because after the civil rights movement, we started really getting rid of racism. The culture started to blend. The 80s, the 90s, we saw the hip hop, we saw the music, we saw the movies, we saw everything happening together. Now it's splitting. We have to have Black Hollywood. We have to have the trans Hollywood. We have to this Hollywood to put each other in a box. And when we put it in the other box, what happens? Well, those guys over there, they don't like you because X, Y, and Z. Those people over there don't like you because of X, Y, and Z. So we're not a racist nation, but we could easily turn back into one unless we stop the narrative, because the narrative to them for the divide and conquer allows them to gain the control, because they realize when we're all in it together and we start calling out their BS, their narrative doesn't work. So they have to divide and conquer. So we're not racist, but we could be, and we have to be aware of that.
Well, okay, so you said that the narrative.
Matthew, go ahead. Greg, I promise you'll get yours.
Because I want Andy to answer the question. If the narrative,
Matthew, come on, Matthew hasn't spoken in a while. Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. Elon Musk has also talked about this topic. He calls the U.S. media and schools are racist against white people, and even most whites now, Rory, will say that we are the victims of racial discrimination. And
if anybody should be bitching about racism, it's us.
If you look at some of the, particularly here in Philadelphia,
I want my reparations. I'm a person of color.
Well, we're Black Irish. Remember, we're Black Irish. Don't forget.
Yeah, my ancestors were slaves back in the day. The Irish and the Catholics and the Christians had to suffer, and we don't even talk about that part of history.
We have had about, I don't know, half a dozen vicious attacks by roving black mobs, young teenagers, beating the shit out of white people in Center City, Philadelphia. I don't go near Center City, Philadelphia. I'm in the far northeast, like 15 miles away. But it is that dangerous. And when this happens, the media on their 11 o'clock news, they don't mention who the perps were. They just say, gang of youths attacked this individual. And then you'll see like a white female all bruised up, black eyes and everything else. So they exonerate them completely of any of these crimes against white people. But if you're in the real world, you know what's happening if you're white. It's an orchestrated thing by the media. We look at schools and universities biased against whites for admissions. It goes a long way.
And notice how these newspapers and these media outlets, they'll always say a white male or a white person if that's the attacker. But if it's a black person, they won't say black. They won't say it. They'll refrain. They try to really hide that kind of stuff because they don't want their agenda to collapse.
They call that Coulter's law. It's like, I remember there was a shooting in Denver and it was a black guy and they waited like 24, 36 hours to identify the perp.
Right. And it's just so ridiculous that if it's a white person, it'll be nonstop 24/7 headlines. But if it's a black person, it'll be gone from the media within 24 hours.
Dr. Jill Biden is in Nashville tonight, okay, doing some kind of prayer vigil.
Of course she is. Of course.
Where was she when they had this thing out? What was it, Waukesha? Remember the Christmas massacre where the black guy ran down all the white people at the Christmas parade? Remember that?
Yeah, that fucking guy. That guy was a lunatic. And he has no remorse. The guy's a scum. I mean, the most evil of all evil kind of individual. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. What happened in that scenario? And they're not. I heard they may not even give him the death penalty. I mean, he may get out of it, and he's playing the game and playing a victim in certain circumstances.
He was obnoxious during the court proceeding.
Yes.
He was obnoxious to everyone in the courtroom.
Yeah,
like he was the victim. He was the victim, not the 6 people or 8 people he killed.
Right. I mean, this fucking guy. And if it was a white person, you already know the media would be giving it a whole different kind of treatment. It's disgusting. They're trying to some organizations are trying to protect this guy. It's sad. Some of these leftist organizations, you've seen that too, right? They're sticking up for him.
Yeah.
Sick stuff. Jim, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring into the discussion that the Democratic Party has a very serious problem, which is that they rely on the black vote. They get 90% of the
90%. Yep.
So how are they doing with the black community in terms of policy and reality?
Last time I checked, at this moment, they have about 77% of the black support.
Oh, I think it's higher than that. So
they've lost a lot of ground. It's not anywhere near 90% anymore. Last report I read, Democrats have about 77% of the black vote. So Republicans have about 23% of the black vote as of now.
Not in presidential elections, but we
saw Trump reach historical numbers with blacks during the election.
But still.
It was over 20%.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think it was. Can anybody recall?
In Democrat-run cities, it's like Jim's saying, it's 90%. It's around 90% support for Democrats.
Let's not.
No, Jim is talking about the Democrats for presidential elections.
Okay.
Rely on 90% of the black vote. I've known that for years. But what I'm saying is they don't have nearly that amount of black support anymore. It's dropped dramatically, which is the last study I read is about 77% is what they have. So they're under 80 at this point.
I don't agree with those numbers, but
I just did a quick Google search real quick. The 2020 election showed that Trump got 12% of the black vote.
Oh, I was wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's about.
What about 2016?
Let me make my point.
Go in 2016.
The Democratic Party has a very serious problem, which is they rely on black support, but their policies have been absolutely horrible for black people. So I agree with the point that Rodney was making. I think here's the point. They need to have black people dislike white people and blame. They need a scapegoat because the Great Society failed. The evidence for that is overwhelming. And the scapegoat is white racism. And so when they bring up reparations, they do know that that's going to create racial tensions because most white people will say, this is a silly idea, we're against it. And then they can go back to their black constituency and say, see, those white Republicans hate you, keep voting for the Democratic Party, whose policies are absolutely horrible for black people. So that would be my analysis. As far as what California does, I have a really good idea. Let's expel California from the union, and I think we'd all be much better off.
That'll never happen. It's the fifth largest economy in the world. That'll never happen. It can never happen.
Well,
the United States needs California.
We could still trade.
No, they don't need California because California
we could trade
more money than any other state.
We could trade with Brazil. We don't have to have Brazil as a state.
Here's the point I'm making.
Actually, that's serious. I do think we should expel California.
Yeah, but the point that I'm making is what you're saying is make no mistake. These people are not that sophisticated. They want money. They want redistribution of wealth. Period. And the consequence that they create is racism, which helps them that they then capitalize on. But just the same thing with what my point is, they don't need the actual. They're going to tell you it's there, whether it's there or not. And my question was a very simple one to you, Andy. Do you think that they would abandon the narrative, which they need, if racism, white on black racism, never materialized? If 10 years, no white on black racism at all. If it never materialized, you think they're like, well, shoot, man, we're trying to make it happen. It ain't made. If you think they would ever abandon the narrative, let me ask you.
No, they would keep doing it.
They would keep doing it. Okay, that's all I know. They would keep doing it.
They would keep doing it. They would do it with different demographics, which is why now it's not just the white and black, but now it's the rich and poor thing.
I don't care. How long do you think they keep doing it?
It's fabricated, but
right.
Look,
no, you're right.
It's fabricated, but the attack on white people as being
forget about the attack on white people. I don't care about it.
Well, let me make my point. The attack on white people as racists causes retaliation from
I get it. 100%. I get it.
So that's all real. That's not fake.
Okay, well, I don't, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the elemental chart.
Look at the Rodney. Look at the.
I get it. Okay, stay with me here. Stay with me. I'm talking about the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, creating the narrative that we're a racist nation. How long do you think they would keep pushing this narrative?
How dare you talk bad about Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson?
Push the narrative if no white racism happened. How long do you think they push the narrative?
They're going to continue it because they're always going to find some small story.
Definitely.
You're right. No, you're right. Look, again, there's not a. You're right.
Okay, look, I don't need to expound. Just indefinitely, right? Indefinitely.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that is exactly my point. My point is, they don't need the actual things to happen. Okay, case in point,
but it's going to lead to it.
Started in the 70s. It was global cooling, and we're all going to die. Did they need people to die from freezing to death? No, hell no. As a matter of fact, the earth started to heat up. And did they need people to fry like an egg in the Arizona desert and die? No, because that didn't happen. It got cool again. So they just changed it to climate change. My point is, they don't need any of this shit. You understand?
I agree with you. And I
fire tonight, man. Merk did an extra line before the show, man. He's on fire. He's on fire.
Look, I get your point, and I agree with it because you're right. They don't need the racism to actually happen. My point is that when you keep the narrative up like that and you divide people to keep them away from each other, it's going to lead to it eventually because that's just human nature.
See, again, you're saying exactly what I said. It is the intended consequences.
Buddy.
They need that. They need that to happen.
It's the natural, but you can't say they need it. They all they need to do is keep telling you their bullshit. That's all they need to do. Because if they stop talking about racism, then guess what? We'll stop talking about reparations. We'll stop redistributing wealth. All that. They need to keep telling you the bullshit. They don't need the result. They don't need the consequences. They will get the consequence. Oh, that I guarantee you. They will get the consequence. They don't need the consequence, though. And that comes the same for climate change. It's a racist narrative. The two Trojan horses for American socialism, this Marxist movement, they do not need the consequences. Oh, by the way, they will get them, but they don't need them. They will continue to throw that shit down your throat so that they can engage in their control and redistribution of wealth. You are foolish if you think they need the result. They need the racism.
We're gonna transition topics. I want to start with the news that came out today out of New York. The jury, they're going to extend and put things on pause until next month. I want to know everybody's thoughts on this. What I think they're trying to do is find someone that's going to do what they want them to do. And this is they're totally what's the is it tampering with the jury? What they're doing? Is that what it's called?
Rory, I think when they said they're going to let it slide.
Is that the term? Is that they're tampering? Is that what it would be? Tampering with the jury, right?
For what?
No, they're trying to work the jury. Jim, what do they call it when they're mass the indictment jury? They're trying to they handpick. That's what they do.
What are they trying to? Come on, Jim, explain, because you're a lawyer. Jim, tell us.
I didn't hear the news about what I think.
Okay, so what they're doing, because he was supposed to be indicted last week, and they kept us waiting. It was supposed to be Tuesday, then it was going to be Wednesday last week, and then they kept going on, blah, blah, blah. And then finally they came out today and said, we're going to wait till next month and figure things out. And it's very sketchy what they're, how they went about their messaging with this whole thing. So I want to know your thoughts, Jim. You're a lawyer.
I mean, it's not tampering because the DA is allowed to interact.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm thinking, though, that they're going to find somebody that's going to, because everybody in reality knows that there's no crime here. So what I'm thinking, and what many are thinking, is that they're going to find somebody that they can put on the jury that's going to convict Donald Trump.
I don't think they can do that.
How could they not? It's one of the most. Do you know how corrupt the New York courts are? These DAs, Alvin Bragg, he's a Soros puppet. Soros gave him $1 million.
If they did that, it would be a violation of.
Well, look at what they did to January 6th. Everybody would say, "Oh, they can't do that," but they did it anyway.
Can they violate the law? Sure. Will they? I kind of doubt it with the spotlight on them. But I don't think they're going to indict Trump, and I don't think they want to say we're not going to indict Trump. I think they want it to just peter out. And then it'll be in page 14, 6 months from now. The grand jury has decided not to issue any indictments. I think they're just trying to let it die a slow death.
They already have the narrative. The narrative is Trump gave them the narrative when he said, go out and protest. The narrative is it's going to create another J6 in the riots. That's already the narrative. So they're already saying they stay because he was in town when Trump was in town for deposition. They were afraid if they come and indict him, then the whole city's going to burn. So they're already the good for evil swap. They're already saying the Trump, the MAGA, they're going to burn the country down if we indict this guy. So they're already putting in this BS narrative. The fact of the matter is they don't have the evidence to get an indictment. Period. Dot. And they're trying to drag more. And what's the old saying? Who was it that said, "You show me a person, I'll show you a crime"? They don't have that yet, but they're looking. They're looking. And when they got it, I don't believe they ever will. Because, like I said from day one, I'll believe it when I see it. But the narrative is they don't want Trump to create riots all over the country. They're trying to gloss over their incompetence and lack of evidence.
And the funny thing is, people, some of the commentators are saying, well, let's not get him on the New York charges because those are the weakest. I actually think that the New York case, as weak as it is, has a little bit of plausibility. The Georgia,
even more than all these other things they tried to get him for with impeachment.
I don't think any of the other, the J6 thing is bullshit. Yeah. I think the dumbest case is the Georgia case. He got on the phone. And
by the way, how many people are going to suffer for that? Because there's a lot of people that are having to go to court for that scenario. I wonder, there's Fox News commentators that are involved. I mean, it's an ugly show, apparently.
Which case? Because are you talking about
the Georgia thing?
All Trump did was he got on the phone and he said, I think the election was fucked.
Are we thinking of the same thing here? Are we talking about the same court case with Dominion? Is this what are we talking all about the same thing?
No. I'm talking about Trump calling the
wanting to find votes.
And they're claiming that by exercising his First Amendment rights, they're claiming he somehow violated the law. That is the stupidest of all of the cases.
You just said, can you find the 12,000 votes? Apparently there were votes missing. That's all he asked. Can you find the votes? He didn't say go out and steal them. Can you find that? It was maybe a tabulation error.
No, it wasn't votes missing. He was down. He lost by 11,000 votes, and he's just like, find me 12,000 so I win Georgia. It wasn't like go steal them or make them up or make fake ballots. It's like, do your investigation, just like they did in Florida in 2000. Same kind of thing.
What he was saying was that his lawyers, I believe, had made specific complaints involving many, many, many more votes than the margin of victory. And Trump was just colloquially saying, look, you can find enough votes to invalidate, to change the results of the election. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that call. I think maybe because the technicalities of classified documents are so inscrutable and nobody could possibly understand the law, that's probably the case where they might have something. But after Biden was found with all these documents all over the place, I think that case is politically dead. So I don't think they're getting, as I've said many times, and I like to say it, he's the most investigated man in human history in real time, and they can't get him on a parking ticket. I don't think they're going to get him on any of these cases.
Andy, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that Trump outsmarted them again, and I think that now they're between a rock and a hard place because they desperately, desperately want Trump to be indicted so that way they can hopefully see, like you said, hopefully see some type of protest for the MAGA crowd in protest of Donald Trump getting indicted and potentially getting arrested in some way, shape, or form, or getting arraigned. And then they stage like they did with January 6th to have people cause some violence so that way they can use that narrative of, number one, Trump was indicted. Number two, Trump was arraigned. Number three, his Trump people are the crazy radical Nazi fascist, whatever, yada, yada, that they try to paint that narrative for. And look at all the violence it created because we're concerned about an uprising from his followers. They want that so badly. But since Trump called them out on it before they were able to make it happen and be public to actually release the information on why they're doing what they're doing, now they're stuck between the rock and the hard place. Do we go ahead and do it when it's a weak case? Or, like you said, do we let it just kind of fade off into the background and hope nothing happens? Because the media really wants to keep talking about how bad Trump's in legal trouble, but now they're not supposed to because they want it to die off because they have nothing on him. So I think he outsmarted him, and now they're trying to squirm behind the scenes on how they move forward with this. Do they let it die off, or do they keep pushing the agenda?
They're going to gaslight. They got to be afraid of the MAGA. You know, it's been in the best interests of the American people in cities all around the country because those MAGA people are shameless and they will burn cities down with the protest that Donald Trump himself called them to do. So we're just going to let it lay low right now. We're just going to let it slide. We're going to let them get away with it because we're afraid. That's what they're going to do. They're going to gaslight. They're going to blame it on Trump, and all he'll do is incite protests. And you know what? It's in the best interest of the American people in cities all over the country that we let this thing go. That's what will happen.
Yeah. Andy, you have to take off here. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get involved, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I got to run. I appreciate it, guys. It's a fun conversation. I enjoy it. You can find me on my website, HooserReason.com, all my social media at Hooser Reason. I do an hour-long weekday show throughout the week, Monday through Friday, that you guys put on with the site, with the live stream and everything, so I appreciate it. But we have a fun time, and we'll jump on here again soon.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Cheers. All right, guys. I want to go to Pastor Evans. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, you look at everything. There's double standards. I mean, you have Black Lives Matter and everybody burning down cities. Everybody said they've just blown off steam. Let them alone. That's the reason when January the 6th happened. You know, I'm sitting there saying, okay, the only reason you're throwing the fit's because it's getting close to you, and you didn't throw a fit when they were burning down all of these people's businesses and homes and other things. But I did see on Twitter also that a lot of people were telling people, hey, just back off. If they indict him, don't do anything, because they do want, just like y'all were sharing, They want to say we did something. They want to say the Republicans are bad. They did this. So I did see a lot of people on Twitter, well-known people, saying, hey, pull back. Don't do anything. Matter of fact, just don't even go to New York. Just stay away because they are trying to get us to do something. Or who knows? Antifa could have been there and they could have done it and they would have blamed us anyway. So, or, Trump people or Republicans in general. If something happens, he does get indicted, I would encourage people just to step back, not do anything, because they want to do that. They have a weak case, as the lawyer said and other people said. They have more knowledge of this than I do. But I know Trump released some stuff that shows different things. So I would encourage everybody not to go, back up, let it fall, because it will, because there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Matthew.
Yeah, I've been following this, speaking about Trump and MAGA. I follow Twitter closely, and you look at the minority speaker, Hakeem Jeffries.
Merk's buddy. Merk loves that guy.
Joe Biden, you look at the diversity hire White House press spokesperson. Extreme MAGA in every single tweet, Rory. Extreme MAGA, extreme MAGA. Define what is extreme. What's extreme?
Hey,
Looking out for the American people? Putting America first? Is that what you characterize as extreme? And the way that Joe Biden continuously demonizes half the population. I know we've been talking about reparations and how Democrats divide. Well, obviously, they destabilized. Their Marxist agenda, the tentacles are everywhere, trying to take your guns, your rights to free speech. It's unbelievable. And that's why they see, Donald Trump as this evil, evil guy. Because a lot, Trump's not perfect, but he speaks the truth a lot. And this scares the shit out of him.
Isn't your buddy Merk Hakeem Jeffries? He's from your home. He represents a district in your home state, right? New York.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Can you imagine if that is the House Speaker one day? I mean, he could be worse than Pelosi. He's definitely more radical.
He's hard to stomach and hard.
He's a radical motherfucker.
He's another incompetent freaking bozo, another idiot. They elevate these people to this status that they're intellectuals and intelligent. He's dumb as a thinking box of rocks.
He was reciting and repeating the Biggie Smalls lyrics a couple weeks ago on the House floor. Did you guys see that? Did
you listen to that crap when McCarthy was? He went through the alphabet. I mean, what's these people, man? It's kind of like the fat bastard that looks in those mirrors that stretches you out, makes you really thin, and he looks at that. He's like, "Damn, I'm in shape. I'm in shape." No, you're not. You're not in shape. Hey, Hakeem, you're not inspiring. You're not intelligent. The only reason why you're where you're at is because you're black.
Whoa. Well, go ahead, Matthew.
Hakeem is no friend of Whitey. That's the bottom line.
No, he hates white people. And that's, there's two things that I want to address that were just kind of said. First off, we have to stop telling overweight people, and fat people that they look great the way they are. That's the Democratic Party's message. They're saying that all these unhealthy individuals, should, continue to empower and have others look like them, like the Lizzos of the world. And now we have all these fat plus size models doing all these campaign ads. And it's part of this inclusive equity, equality agenda. It's toxic. It's horrible. It's advertising heart disease. It's advertising every sort of bad habit you can think of. When people are overweight, it's awful. I mean, we need to get back to fitness. We need to get back to proper dieting in this country. When you go to other countries, you don't see obesity. You don't see the kind of weight problems that you see in America. People in America are spoiled. We are so overly rewarded. It's crazy. Merk, you want to say something about it?
Because this is the left, right? And you watch any
news. They're telling Lizzo, oh, she looks so good in her thong and her bikini, and she's 300 pounds. The woman's 300 pounds. Look at how beautiful and brave she is. Oh my God. Go ahead.
A big part of it is the radical left and the progressives. The women are almost always hideous, fat and ugly, angry at the pretty girls because they never get dates. Nobody opens the door for them. Nobody wants to buy them dinner. So they got to normalize it. We're getting dumb, and they're rewarding being dumb. They're rewarding being fat. They're rewarding being lazy. This is this is all about the destruction of this country. I was in the mall the other day, and I walked by a Victoria's Secret. The monstrosities that I saw on this giant poster, these big tubs of goo women. I'm telling you, I thought it was a joke. Literally thought it was a joke. And it was a Victoria. That's the new campaign now. God forbid you have attractive women and women that take care of themselves. You can't. That's just sexist there. So what is that? So what if you put a big, fat, obese, overweight, unhealthy woman? What is that? What do you call that? So it was disgusting. And by the way, no surprise, I peeked in there and there wasn't a soul in there.
You know what? I'll tell everybody out there. I lost 90 pounds in 1 year. During the pandemic, I was a fat ass for a while. So I know what it's like to be overweight. But I went on a proper diet. I ran 5 miles a day. I worked out. I lifted. And I'm back to my normal weight at 175. So at one point, my worst, I think I was like two in the 260s or 270s. And the lowest I got was like 155. But 155 is way too skinny. So I'm at 175 now, and 175 for being 5'10" is perfect. I'm not right where I should be. But I'm just saying, if I can lose 90 pounds in about a year, anybody can fucking do it. I mean, all you got to do is put your mind to it and, put down the pizza, put down the cheeseburgers. I was eating 3 fucking fast food meals a day, stuffing my face. Well, I was drinking a bunch of alcohol too. That's what I was drinking. I haven't had alcohol in a year and a half though. I think that has a lot to do with it. That packs on the weight the liquor does. But I'm just saying, like, people need to get off the couch and work out. They can live longer. They can look younger. It's the way to do things.
You can't get them to get off the couch.
And it's not that overweight people are bad people. Nobody's insinuating that. But it's almost like we're enabling and encouraging people to stay that way and that it's okay. It's not. And when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm fine just the way I am," no, you're not. Deep down, you know that you want to look good and you want to be in shape. But you're just trying to not sound, vulnerable. I mean, that's the reality. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on a fitness kick myself. The other thing about obesity is it contributes to cancer, which is something I'm studying very hard. So I'm down like 10 pounds in the last month. And it's not easy, but it's not hard. I could tell you on the back of an envelope what I do, which is no sugar, no wheat. I walk in the morning, I work out in the afternoon, I eat 2 meals a day, I don't eat lunch, I fast. It's really
good.
No beer. I drink red meat, and that's it. It's not that hard. And you feel better. You don't have the energy spikes. You sleep better. It's good. It's good for warding off cancer or fighting cancer if you have it. Cardiovascular benefits, obvious. To do some saunas and do some fasting. That's it. It's not hard.
Yeah. I've lost about 25 in the last month and a half.
You look great, man. You look fantastic. You look fantastic, by the way.
Well,
I wanted to tell you that. You look great.
Thanks. I'm out exercising, doing stuff. My wife's losing. We're in the same thing. Went to the doctor. He said, you're healthy, but you need to start losing weight. And just like the lawyer said there, he said, cut back on your sugar, cut back on carbs. And so that's all basically what I've done is cut back on those things. And I'm losing, a little bit every week and exercising a little bit as we get out in camp and do those things. So I'm with you. I think everybody needs to start looking out for their health. That's the best thing they can do is to lose weight, get in health. I know my dad just had knee surgery and they're working him out like crazy. He had knee replacement in January and he's lost all kinds of weight, but they are working him hard on his knee. And but he's the kind of guy that they told him he had to work out and he's doing it. but that's what we all need to do. We all need to be out walking and doing some things.
And being healthy is a political statement.
Right.
Because when you're not healthy, you're dependent on all these slimy politicians who are going to come to your rescue. And by the way, the American medical,
they want you to depend on pharmaceuticals. That's why they're encouraging obesity in a bunch of ways, because a lot of these obese people have to rely on pharmaceuticals to treat all the diseases that they get diagnosed with.
When you go to the doctor, they won't tell you about diet fitness because the insurance company doesn't pay for it and they can't make any money off of it. So I'm going to be writing a lot more about this stuff in the future. There's a lot of really important issues at stake.
It's not about what's healthy and not healthy. Yeah, no kidding. The earth is round. The earth revolves around the sun. We live in the Milky Way. It's not about any of that. This is about everybody gets a trophy. The fat girl, she's just as pretty as the skinny girl. No, she's not. The ugly girl, she should get asked out by the good-looking guy. No, she shouldn't. It's all about the lies and the deception. It's all about change. It's not about what makes sense. Of course, being fat is unhealthy. It's bad. And it costs the taxpayers money. And you know what? Guess what? If I'm going to be paying for your health care, then I just assume they mandate that you can't drink a 16-ounce Coca-Cola because I got to pay for you. So when you allow all this bad in, then you make me want to be bad. It's about equalize. Everybody gets a trophy. Fat girls, you get on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit models because why should the skinny pretty girls? This is the nonsense, the chaos that we live in. Because when truth is supplanted by imagination, when fantasy replaces reality, you get chaos. You get this. That's what it's about. Chaos. Not about what's smart, what's good, what's healthy. It's about chaos.
Did they decrease obesity when they banned Big Gulps at 7-Eleven in the state of New York? Does anybody remember that?
No,
didn't somebody did that? Who did that?
Philadelphia has it still, Rory. We have a tax on.
No, but Jim and Greg, you both live in New York. What happened when they got rid of the Big Gulp?
Bloomberg. Nothing happened. That was Bloomberg last night.
Oh, that was Bloomberg did that?
Yeah.
The nanny tax.
That's too funny, man.
He was a bit of a health fascist. No, we still have a lot of people in New York who look like beach balls.
Gotcha. Interesting. I mean, what is it gonna? We'll fix it over time, or maybe not.
We're not gonna fix it.
Maybe not. We're
not gonna fix nothing.
I mean, how many percentage of the population do you think dies from heart disease every year? Do you think it's a small percentage, or do you think it's getting to be more and more? All the fast food restaurants and stuff.
No, 40% of young people are obese. Foods. I think the number is 40% of young people are obese.
I didn't know it was that high, dude.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, between the obesity and the drug usage, these are two main reasons why the military cannot meet its recruiting demands. And I want to say a very small percentage, less than half, far less than half, maybe 40 or 30%, maybe more than that, would even be physically qualified to enter the military of young people, kids between 18 and 25. Very small percentage would even be qualified physically.
Jesus. All right, I want to transition topics real quick here, guys. And this is big right now, and I have to bring this up. There's 1,000 AI experts and tech leaders call for temporary halt in the advanced AI development. They think things are moving way too quickly, and it's just a matter of time till we can't turn these switches off, and they overpower everything. It's crazy what this can come to.
Yeah, and Elon was one of those signatories, Rory, you're talking about, the 1,000 people, and he's right to do this. But one has to wonder, what could you impose, or would you have to regulate the whole, AI industry or whatever? But if we know anything about corporate America or the way the corporations run, they don't give a shit about the average man and woman, walking around. They care about one thing: the dollar.
Money.
So,
money.
That's their primary concern. But this AI thing, this is a scary, scary thing. Because the more reliance we have on it, the more we dehumanize ourselves.
Where's the lack of trust? Rory, why do you say, because you don't trust anybody, and rightfully so, I don't either.
But yeah, I don't really trust anyone. I mean, there's very few people.
Okay. So seriously, Elon Musk and Gates and the rest of them, and I've got the letter right in front of me, the entire letter. What? So you trust that they're like, we need to stop it for 6 months? Do you really think behind the scenes they're not working overtime to get the advantage, the tactical advantage? Come on. Look, besides, it's all asinine nonsense. It reminds me of I think of Playboy, like the last generation of Playboy. It was mainstream. No more sex because sex is out. The cancel culture, can't have any of that. So they try to make it this mainstream. It's like, hey pal, too late. It's Playboy. You ain't never going to. That ship left the station a long time ago. You're never going to distance yourself from what you are, a filth magazine. So AI, it is here. It's here to stay. Good luck trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And finally, and frankly, I find it laughable that these people are signing a letter trying to ban it because, they talked about it. And it starts off with AI techniques with human competitive intelligence can pose profound dangers to society and humanity. Yeah, hello, again.
Yeah.
Hey, the earth is round. Yeah, no kidding.
And there also is a report that just came out that they expected to take out 80% of jobs and up to 300 million Americans out of work. So, I mean, if you don't think that's a big deal, Merk, then I don't know.
I don't think it's a big deal.
Merk, let me ask you, how many people are in this country? If it's going to put 300 million people out of work.
We don't have 300 million workers in America, so I don't know where that number comes from. We don't have 300 million workers. We only got 330 million people.
Well, maybe
30 million of them aren't little babies.
No, maybe it said 300 million globally. Maybe I read the report, but it said 300 million. Maybe
it wasn't 330, 40, 50 million Americans here alive. But whatever. Yes, it will cost jobs, and I'm saying it's a bad thing. You know what my problem?
But 80. Well, no. Actually, let's go back to what I just said. If the study said that it'll take out 80% of jobs, so what would that be in terms of people? Let's say, okay, we don't have the exact number in front of us of how many workers there are, but let's say it takes out 80% of jobs. How many people is that in America? Maybe
150 million.
What?
Maybe, I don't know, 150 million?
Okay, that's what I was going to guess. Okay, so fuck.
It's horrible. No question. Horrible. But you know what? Playboy is a filth magazine. You
used to read it and whack your wiener to it. So what's your point?
My point is, it's out of the bag. It's too late. and you're trying to put something back. And the last people I trust are these people that are really the creators of this technology.
Do you trust Hugh Hefner?
Yeah.
Do you trust your buddy Hugh?
No.
Rory.
No, but you know what? Here's the problem with AI and all the technology. It's not just AI. It's kind of like, you talked about you got to lock up the transgenders. Well, but you know what?
Yes, we do. Criminalize them, throw them in prison, instill fear in them, make them change their ways.
Okay.
I mean, it's one thing to be gay. People can go be gay if they want to take it in the ass, if they want to suck dick, whatever. That's their lifestyle. Just don't advertise it. But being a tranny, I mean, that's a whole nother psychological
problem.
But
you got to make my point. You're basing it on a moral law.
Like never before. It should be criminalized. Yeah. It's a mental health diagnosis. It's sick. It's
so was homosexuality. So was homosexuality. But you're making my point.
As time goes on.
Are you running for government?
According your hierarchy, your moral law says get rid of the transgenders. But as far as mental illness, there was a time when homosexuality, and let me tell you, homosexuality is an abomination. It doesn't talk about transgenders, biblical, but it talks about homosexuality. It's an abomination.
Okay, but we're okay. But like I said yesterday, all this shit started with it. What it started with was let the gays get married. Which, you know what?
Yeah, right.
Fine. As long as they're not bothering me, fuck it. You know what? But that's not where they left it.
All right, well, let's take it back to what we're talking about here.
And this is where we're at. They're chopping their cocks off, and we have all these trannies doing drag shows and fucking doing all this pedophilia. I mean, it's gone way too far, man.
Okay, well, come back to the topic. The topic is technology and AI.
I'm just saying, but you went on the tranny. You were going
on. Yeah, it was a metaphor. I'm saying it's the same thing. But I didn't mean to get out, just to show you that you have a hierarchy. Now, your hierarchy is AI, bad, 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 but you don't see the danger in technology as a whole. The problem with all of it is, while there are benefits to all of this, yes, absolutely. But the problem is we are becoming a desensitized and inhuman society with no physical contact. Physical contact is essential. You take a baby, it's essential that baby has physical contact, or we'll grow up with serious problems. We are becoming this completely segregated society where all of us individuals are sitting in our little homes and our little computers. We have no physical interaction, and AI is replacing humans. But let's step back, because technology as a whole is replacing human interaction. Physical contact, real friendships, not bots, not social media bullshit, but real physical action, touches, and all of these things. Technology is a very dangerous thing. We are using it for good, but profoundly using it to destroy society. AI is just an extension of that. Yes, AI is bad, but all I'm saying is don't just focus on the AI. It is absolutely bad. But you have to draw it all the way down the line and where it started, because technology has not made us a more social society, in spite of the fact that millions of people are on social media. We're less social now than we ever have been. That's my point.
Okay. Rory?
Yes.
Greg, you heard what Greg just said. Stop promoting AI sex dolls. That's your downfall.
It's happening, man. It's becoming a real thing. It's a big market. You know, all these crazy inventions. It's just one after the other. It's like it's never going to end. Pretty soon, people already are. They're marrying robots. I mean, I see articles about that weird shit.
It's going to be like Blade Runner.
Yeah, eventually, as time goes on, will people even know the difference in 30 years? I mean, they're going to make them look so much like humans.
We're 100 years from that, if we're around that long.
I don't know, Greg. Did you ever think when you were a kid, Greg, you would have an iPhone one day that you could pretty much click one button and you could do anything?
Yeah, I used to dream about having a TV on my wristwatch. And then, like in the 1980s, they actually had a TV that could fit on your wristwatch. Because when I was in grade school, I used to dream about watching cartoons and being able to watch cartoons instead of listening to the teacher. If only I had a little tiny TV on my wrist.
Yeah.
Now you got a television studio on your wrist.
Exactly.
It can reach every person on Earth.
Yeah, but just the idea of having a woman who really looks and in a robot, we're a long way away from that.
I've seen videos. No, I've seen videos where there's a human robot that looks exactly like a human. They took the skin and everything. I'm going to send it to you, and it's from MIT. It's crazy. Rod, Pastor Evans, your thoughts on all this? Everything.
Y'all said everything. I mean, what more can I say?
So if this thing hit on you in a store, you would really confuse it. You'd think it was a real woman.
The Koreans are making the
maybe
best
in 30 years I would.
Yeah.
But right now,
what do you say about the Koreans?
Rory, the Koreans are apparently the best in technology with these AI sex dolls. The Koreans are and the Japanese, but they're really perfecting this whole thing that you like.
It's crazy.
Oh
man.
my gosh!
It's absolutely mind blowing. It's mind blowing. I just read a report here. 44% of Americans work a second job. It's a 13% increase under Joe Biden. And
that's
I think
a point I made on Monday or yesterday, Tuesday.
Crazy.
On Minutes with Merk. Yep, we are an all-time record of people with second and third jobs. It's not a good.
Wow.
That's not a good labor market. We got a strong labor market. It's not a strong labor market when people need to have second and third jobs to make ends meet.
It broke up the family. It breaks up the family unit. It breaks up the family unit when you think about it.
I
talked to one of my neighbors here, and we were talking about how much money they were spending on groceries, and he's close to $2,000 a month with his two kids and at home. And then he said one way that I've learned how to save money is just not eat. He said I'm going without breakfast or lunch or something just to save money.
$2,000 a month.
Close to $2,000 a month for him to
With
feed his
two
family.
kids? What are they eating? Filet mignon every day?
You got to realize they're teenagers.
Surf and turf at your neighbor's house every day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
They're teenagers.
Champagne.
And I know when my son was at home, he would eat half a box of cereal a night, and we'd go through a gallon of milk a day or two.
And he drinks Pappy Van Winkle for his late night drink.
So I'm just saying, when my son was, he's over 6'8". When he was at home,
Wow.
Jesus
he
Christ.
would eat from the time he got up to go. He would get up and make some cereal while he waited to fix his food for breakfast. Then he would fix a sandwich while his mom was fixing lunch or dinner for him because he was just so hungry.
No, I mean, again, it's expensive, no doubt. 2000, it doesn't surprise me. It's not impossible. I mean, I went to the Publix yesterday. I spent $71 just on a few things. I just went in there for $71. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely crazy, but wow, $2,000 a month for food. Holy cow, it's a lot of money.
That's crazy.
I mean, people are suffering right now. I mean, it's just bad.
Credit card debt.
Financially.
Yeah.
Well, that, and then you've got, electric up, gas is up. I mean, how much money is people really spending now with food prices and everything, but all up than they were before Biden got in? How high is it now?
It's like when Al Gore remember Al Gore in 2000 against George Bush, everything should be down is up and everything should be up is down. That's America today. Al Gore could be preaching that message today.
Yeah.
Jim, you have any thoughts on this?
Jim voted for Al Gore.
Are we on artificial
Jim voted for Al Gore, didn't you, Jim?
Well, the price as far as the jobs. So Americans, from 1607 through 1975 experienced ever increasing standards of living with the exception of a couple, recessions here and there. But we've been in this permanent stagnation and then decline. So there's Americans can't psychologically accept that. So they're constantly, the first thing they did is they pushed the women outside the home to work. That kept up this illusion of same standard of living, except it destroyed the quality of life. And so this notion of it working 2-3 jobs is just another way of trying to stave off the perception of the reality of decline. We're declining. We're a declining country. And so people do all these crazy things to try to mask it and hide it and delay the inevitable. The credit cards, obviously the debt, the government debt, the private debt, the public debt. These are all mechanisms because Americans cannot accept the fact that their country is declining because that wasn't an American idea of decline. It's stagnation and decline. And that's, I'm a declinist. I try to tell the truth in my books and in my everything I say when I open my mouth. But people don't want to accept it. Most people don't want to accept it.
And the FDIC weighs squeezing big banks to plug $23 billion hole from small bank failure costs. And anybody read about that?
Yeah, sure. Look, the banking system in America is insolvent.
And then I read today, Russia, their unemployment rate in February, 3.5%. They're rocking. They're doing better than any country.
Boy,
because they're all freaking in the military and getting shot or they're leaving.
But as you were saying about the FDIC, Greg.
They look at this is a big, huge Ponzi scheme. Again, another Ponzi scheme. And usually you talk about a disparity too. If they're so concerned about equity, why is the Democrat Party not railing against these bailouts? Because they're bailing out millionaires and billionaires. Remember, they demonized millionaires and billionaires. You're bailing out millionaires and billionaires because if you've got 250 or below, you're covered because you've been paying your insurance. But it's like you got people driving around in Ferraris and like, I don't have any insurance, and then they smash it up. They go like, nah, no problem. I know you didn't pay for any insurance, but we're gonna pay for your Ferrari anyway. And then the guy that busts his ass to keep his Geo Metro on the road and pays his insurance every day, yeah, he smashes his car, he's covered, but because he's been paying his insurance. But the guy driving the Ferrari or the Lamborghini, he smashes it up with no insurance, but the government pays it. So where's the equity in that? These banks ought to fail. They ought to fail to expose the underbelly of their disgusting rank ESG policies that are destroying the banks. That's what killed SVB and Signature and the rest of them. These are woke, politically correct banks making horrible decisions. They couldn't run a freaking lemonade stand, let alone the complications of a banking system. And yet their bank fails and they're going to get bailed out by the government, which is bailed out by you and me. That's the reality.
Over the last 2 weeks, let me just give everybody a recap of what's happened in the economic market. Saudi Arabia considers accepting Chinese yuan for oil sales. China and France complete first LNG trade using yuan. Russia considers using Chinese yuan as reserve currency. Saudi Arabia partners with China to build refinery for 83.7 billion Chinese yuan, which is 12.2 billion, I believe, in US dollars, if I'm not mistaken. China and Brazil agree to Chinese yuan in cross-border transactions. The percentage of global reserves in US dollars is down from 72% in 1999 to 59% now.
Yep, I talked about this many, many times. It's the dollar demise.
Did I pronounce it right? Yuan? Did I pronounce it right?
Yuan.
Yuan. Fuck, I pronounced it wrong. Okay. Go ahead, though.
No, the dollar's on its way down. The dollar's been on its way out since Nixon got us off the gold standard. He just like solidified the demise of the U.S. dollar. And of course, especially, we just accelerated this. The Biden policies just accelerated it with all the sanctions we placed on Russia and not allowing them to utilize the SWIFT system, which is the internet system that allows you to transfer money across borders. So if you're not on SWIFT, that's how they sanction you. You can't transfer funds. So guess what? Just get off SWIFT and get out of U.S. dollars. That's what China's doing. You want to know when China's going to invade Taiwan? Just look at their financial systems. Just look at their dependence on the U.S. dollar. As they sell treasuries, no U.S. treasuries, as they de-dollarize, they're going to establish all these contracts all over the world in yuan, so that they don't need the U.S. dollar. They're de-dollarizing, and when they're de-dollarized, you can expect the invasion of Taiwan shortly thereafter.
And it was announced today that Saudi Arabia has joined a China-led security bloc and trade alliance with China, Russia, India, Pakistan, and others, according to CNBC. You know what I'm referring to, Greg?
Yeah, it's pronounced Pakistan, by the way. If you're
Pakistan.
So what happens when
you got to put that Obama Middle Eastern twang to it. No.
And we should also mention this, that Saudi Arabia is reportedly importing hundreds of thousands of tons of Russian fuel oil as it tries to meet summer cooling demands. Interesting.
Yeah. Russia's moving that stuff out the back door like crazy, man. You got as much as the world wants to say, yeah, we're with you, America. When it comes down to feeding their people, heating their people, fueling their people, it's like, yeah, okay, let's make a deal, Mr. Putin. Let's make a deal.
Yeah, no. Anybody have any thoughts to this? Anyone want to react to what I just said? Jim, you have any thoughts?
It's not really my bailiwick.
You have any thoughts?
Yeah, the dollar's been declining for a long time, and we've gotten this artificial subsidy where everybody uses the dollar, and that's just another thing propping up our declining country against the perception of decline. So we're going to get a big dose of reality coming up, and we're going to have to change our ways or just fade into oblivion like every other major empire in history. I think there's been 16 there's been 16 that I counted in one of my books. 15 are gone, and we're on the chopping block.
You're absolutely right, Jim, and we will fade in decline. It will be like England was, back when England was the world power before America, and we're going to be like that. We'll be here, but we will not be the power. And I'll tell you, when the world is de-dollarized, when U.S. dollar is no longer the reserve currency of the world, people cannot even begin to imagine the profound impact that is going to have on our way of life, economically, socially, the gamut. It is going to have a profound negative impact on our way of life. And we don't have enough hours in a day to talk about the details of that, but it is huge and it's happening.
Yeah, it's just going to affect us every which way. I mean, it's sad it's come to that, but don't y'all think it's the plan? That's in my mind. I just think, personally, the Democrats are evil, and I think it's just part of the plan.
Definitely the plan. One world government, one world currency. Absolutely.
Just some news along those lines. The COVID-19 national emergency is over, according to the Senate vote tonight, and we only have to look how the world economy. The acceleration of the overall decline because of the draconian COVID measures on the economy, on people's liberties, and on freedom of speech, but the whole gambit. But Look at small business was destroyed. 60% of small businesses never reopened. The damage that it did, and it does look like certainly a globalist agenda here to go to digital currency and a bunch of other things they've been working on for decades. It looks like that's coming to fruition, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're going to be closing out the show here in about 10, 15 minutes, guys, but I have a few more things I want to get across. But no, ending the COVID emergency, according to the report, Biden will go along with it. He will not veto it. So I thought he might veto it, but he's not going to.
They have to look back at Rory. It was, the numbers accordingly were nothing worse than a bad flu. The average age of death being around 82 to 84 from COVID-19. So these things were all magnified and exaggerated to scare the shit out of the American public. I think only about 6% actually died from COVID.
And speaking of something else that's going on, the Senate passed a bill limiting president's power to conduct Iraq military operation. It's moving to the House now, which it will pass in the House because the Republicans dominate the House at this point. Legislation that would limit the executive branch's powers to conduct military operations in Iraq without congressional approval passed the Senate Wednesday and now awaits a House vote under Republican leadership. A bipartisan group of senators voted 66-30 to repeal the 1991 and 2002 authorizations AUMF for combat operations against Iraq to reduce American president's broad powers to conduct military operations without congressional approval. Anybody want any thoughts on this? And one more thing I want to add to it. One more thing I want to add. Another thing that came out while we're talking about military. The Russian deputy foreign minister announced today that Russia has stopped all nuclear-related notifications to the United States, including warnings about testing launches. That can be a part two if anybody wants to add on that or talk about that. But Merk, you wanted to say something about.
Yeah, well, first of all, constitutionally, Congress has the authority to declare war. And I don't think that the president ought to have, the executive branch ought to have that unilateral authority to send our troops into harm's way. It ought to be in the hands of Congress. And as far as what Putin's doing, of course, these are all tactics that he wants to kind of throw out there. This idea that this unpredictability when it comes to nuclear weapons. He might use them, he might not. He wants you just to not know what he's going to do. And it's all part of his game. Maybe make the world so scared they'll come to the table. Because I think genuinely deep down inside, Putin wants to come to the table. He doesn't like what's happening because the world is it's like this slow, they're just dragging the inevitable out. But you know what? In the meantime, Putin is losing. He's not losing, but he's losing a lot of people and losing a lot of resources. And I'm sure he would like this to come to a close. And this is kind of his way to hopefully accelerate that process of coming to the table and talking peace.
Yeah. Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously, I was against the war in Iraq, wrote a bunch of articles about it that nobody listened to. I predicted the Civil War, by the way, which Washington did not, even though I've never been there, because I understand tribalism. I understand nations. I understand when something's not a nation. But we need to get out of Syria, too, along with Iraq. We're still messing around in Syria. There was some raid the other day. That's a disaster. I wrote a little book on that, the interventions into Syria and Libya, which were illegal criminal war crimes and really had terrible negative consequences, continuing and leading to a lot of refugees fleeing into Europe and so on. So basically everything we've done in the Middle East since World War I has been a fucking mess.
Yeah, no,
they're wild people. You cannot tame them. That's what Genesis says, that the father of Ishmael will be a wild people. Was
that the War Powers Resolution Act you're kind of talking about, where the president has to notify Congress on any act of overseas engagement? Is that what they're talking about?
Isn't that what it is, Merk?
I think I think it's slightly different. I think they passed a resolution allowing George Bush to go into Iraq, and it was kind of this open-ended thing, and they're trying to close it off.
They're trying to tighten it up,
I think. Yeah, it probably relates to the War Powers Act, but I think it's a separate piece of legislation.
And Rory, the Russian thing, your second part of where Russia is now withdrawing from treaties and whatnot, this is a dangerous thing. Another total Biden fuck up. I mean, they're trying to isolate Russia economically, militarily, and now with the treaties, they're endangering all of us, not just in Russia and the United States, but around the world. The Biden regime is completely reckless, and I'll say it once and say it a million times, stolen elections have catastrophic consequences, and we're all witnessing that now.
Pastor, you have any thoughts?
I just echo what they've been saying. It's a mess, and Biden doesn't know what he's doing, and I think he is looking for a war to get involved in or something to get involved in. I think he's been looking for it for a while. I think the Democrats look for it. You know, Trump's the only one that got us out of stuff and didn't start anything, and they accused that he was going to do it. But I think Joe Biden's doing his best to try to find something to mingle himself in and get us into something.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Guys, we have like one or two more quick headlines, and then we're going to close the show. I want to mention this real quick. The border is a mess right now, and we all know how Mayorkas is perhaps the worst Department of Homeland Security executive we've ever seen. I mean, there's never been anybody as bad as this dude. He is horrible. He should have been impeached a long time ago. But anyways, he's lobbying senators to give green cards to tens of thousands of Afghans brought to the United States by President Joe Biden, despite allegations of widespread vetting failures. I mean, these are the same kind of people. These are the same people that fled Afghanistan that we know nothing about. And we all know what the ideology is in these third world countries. A lot of it is not very nice ideology, what they're taught and what their values are and what their traditions are don't resonate with America. You know, so obviously there's a lot that come here for a better life, but there's a lot that, you know, are not coming here for a better life. But anyways, following the U.S. Armed Forces withdrawal from Afghanistan in August 2021, Biden opened a refugee pipeline that has resettled more than 86,000 Afghans in American communities, many without having to be screened or interviewed in person beforehand. Craziness. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
You know, I spent a lot of time on the ground in Afghanistan, and I can tell you firsthand, this is not a culture of people, I don't care who they are, that is compatible with the West. It just is not. So, you know, more of watering down what it means to be an American, the American dream, the American way of life, what the red, white, and blue signifies. Bring all these radical, wacko cultures that are nothing like ours because they're not going to assimilate. This is not the 1920s when people left what they had. They left the comfort of their homes in Italy and in Germany and Poland, and they came to realize the American dream to assimilate to become Americans. These people are coming from nothing, and all they have is a very radical way of life where if your wife cheats on you, you cut her head off. That's what they believe. That's what's practiced over there. They're not going to assimilate. I'm sorry, they're not going to. They're going to demand that we capitulate and assimilate to them, and that's what always happens. That's why multiculturalism doesn't work. All it does is dilute and destroy.
86,000 is a shit ton, too. That's a shit ton, dude. That's like, in certain ways, that could be 3 cities. I mean, so that could be three small cities. Palm Springs is like 40,000 people, so that's like 2 Palm Springs. But freaking Matt, what Rod, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, my thing is, and I put this out the other day, if our political people would be so concerned about our young people, they would be bringing in all of these refugees, and I believe we need to bring some in that are truly refugees. They wouldn't have open borders. They could take all that money and they could begin to put security guards, armed security guards in all the schools, and they could defend the schools instead of talking about taking our Second Amendment away from us. Now, here in Concord, where I live, there is police officers in the schools, and they talk to the kids. It's a good way for everyone to see how nice the police officers are. But we're spending all this money on all the illegals coming in this country, And if we would take that and begin to use it for our young people to help them, to secure them at school, we wouldn't even be talking about our Second Amendment as much. When I say we'd be talking about because the Democrats want to take it. Let me go back and say that again. But we would have our schools protected. Some countries have armed security guards. I'm for that. But there's no way that we can absorb all of this and pay for this. I mean, we're looking at people that will live on us for forever. They're not going to get jobs. They're going to live on us.
Now, forget the notion that money cures anything. All right, I just forget that notion. Yes, cops in schools. Forget the idea that government money solves anything. We're spending more and more and more. We spend over $6 trillion. All our problems are exacerbated and made worse. You know what fixes our problems? Women, close your legs. Don't get knocked up. Men, stay in the home. Marry your women and have children after you get married. That's a start. If you start there, then maybe some of these problems will disappear. Money ain't going to do it.
You know what, Rory? You said 86,000. I thought the only ones that were supposed to come over here were the Afghans that directly supported American military and intelligence services. Not everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, or whatever their names are.
That's insane.
Ahmad, Jamil, and Hamal.
Jim, you have any thoughts on this one?
No, the deep state doesn't like the country, so anytime they can change it,
yes,
they do. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and by the way, 8.1,
like
that's the birth rate of Middle Eastern. 8.1. So 86,000 today, 20 years from now, 500,000.
And they'll get reparations too.
And the last thing I want to go into before we exit tonight, that little weasel, that little pipsqueak, Garland, is refusing to label what happened in Nashville as a hate crime. And we all know why. Biden laughed about the scenario of Christians being targeted. I mean, the war on Christianity, you know, they just don't even care. They're going to ignore it. They're going to sympathize. They're going to stand with the transgender community because that's their base. They know that Christians overall don't support them.
What?
And, you know, the Christian narrative is not what fits them. So this is sick. This is sick. This is all partisan politics.
Racism is only white on blacks. Can't have black on white. That's no such thing. Only white on black. Hate crime is only white on black. Listen, it doesn't fit the narrative. So, of course, it's not recognized. There's no such thing as racism. There's no such thing as hate crimes unless it's white people committing atrocities on people of color or people of gender.
No, but what I'm saying is if this was against somebody that's Jewish or Muslim, it would be they would have definitely condemned it. The White House would have been all over it. But since it's a Christian, they're not even giving a shit about it.
How do you have a Catholic president, Rory, that doesn't stand by and support Christians? I don't understand this.
Because he's a fake. He's a big fraud. But hey, somebody else answers to me. But because I'm confused. So was it a dude who believes he's a woman? Was it a girl who believes he's a man? I honestly, I don't know yet.
Did you not see the picture of her when she was younger? She was actually cute, and then she transitioned. It looked like a damn tranny. I mean, if you saw pictures from her yearbook, she was actually a good-looking chick, and then
that picture
something really happened.
Was that the picture you sent me and you texted me?
Yes.
Oh, so she was really a biological girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you couldn't tell because there's so much confusion with these. I can't keep these freaks straight. Man, biological man. I don't know. They call them women. They call them men. You know, I can't keep them straight. Well, then I applaud the media because they continue to say the woman. I continue to call her a woman. So I've been wrong because I thought it was a biological man, but they were calling her women and literally, almost capitulating to her and giving her this deference, which I thought was disgraceful. But so she was born a woman. Okay.
Well,
Rodney, your thoughts?
Well, it was a hate crime. I mean, she went into, with what I've picked up so far, she went into the school looking for the pastor, his wife, and his kids.
Yep.
And she got to one of the kids and killed them. It's a hate crime. I don't know why The president's not saying it's a hate crime. I know that there's some political people saying, hey, this should be classified as a hate crime, but it's against whites and it's against Christians. And that's the reason it is not a hate crime right now. I mean, we're messed up. And I've said this before on this program. We've got a lot of kids that the Democrats have fed stuff into. They have brainwashed them that we are going to have mental illness in this country for years because of what's going on right now in this country. Because they're telling them they can choose their gender, they can go and have surgery and have this done, take this medicine. And we've got some major problems, and we all know this. We've talked about it. We got more than just this. But if they was concerned about kids, they would be pushing this narrative right now because it's destroying a bunch of kids. And there's the older people that's had surgeries. They're older now, and now they wish they had not done it. They're speaking out against it. And that's good. I'm glad they're doing that. But all of us need to begin to speak out against it. But it's the narrative of the Democrats to push because I don't think they care a bit about the kids.
Agreed. Jim, your thoughts on this? You're a Catholic like me. You're into your faith. You probably are pretty upset about this.
It appears to have been a hate crime, and they don't want to admit it because it doesn't fit within their ideological pursuit of power, as I said, alluded to before. It also may have been a terrorist attack because apparently Tennessee just passed some legislation that this person might not have but you won't see it labeled a terrorist attack. But I really want to know, where's the manifesto? Because I heard on the Bannon show that the FBI took it.
It's with Hunter's laptop.
And now they're saying on April 1st, I don't know if anybody read this report, they're saying there's going to be a day of vengeance, Transgender Day.
11 a.m.
They're going through with this, and they're going to have massive rallies and protests. And what made me sick is the media came out and portrayed the transgender community as the victims after this shooting. They said they have more of a target on their back now than ever after this Christian school shooting. I mean, it's disgusting what the mainstream does.
Watch what happens Saturday in D.C. If the Metro Police stand down when Antifa's rioting for this transgender shit, watch how they react, or the FBI. If the FBI just, hey, this is not our problem. Why isn't the FBI not infiltrating Antifa if this thing is going to transpire this Saturday? They're just laying low on this. One wonders complicity and who's orchestrating these events.
I want to watch the Tranny Freak Show. I want to watch the Tranny Freak Show myself.
But listen. I mean, it's April. Don't forget this, guys. I mean, I honestly think they'll probably do it. If it's not going to be April 1st, they will do it at some point. But don't forget, that's April Fool's Day. What if they're just trying to troll conservatives, and then they say, "Ha, gotcha," and then they try to stir this whole media.
Now, they don't have a sense of humor. The left doesn't have a sense of humor.
Created a conspiracy that we were going to cause this massive protest. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah, you know what though?
It's April Fool's Day though. Don't forget that. Fucking people play funny games. But go ahead.
This whole hate crime thing. I pierce the veil and break through the facade. It's all bull crap anyway. What is a hate crime? You just go and kill. If that's hate, you hate. So some reason, if it's a black on a black, that's not a hate crime. If it's a white on a white, it's not a hate crime. Straight on straight. Look, it's hate. And the whole idea, this thing that somehow the crime is worse because there was race involved or there was gender. And to me, that's all nonsense. You treat wicked, evil, ugly people like they are. You're full of hate, you send you to the chair or the firing squad.
Did you all see the text message that the girl sent?
Her friend?
Yes. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it. Pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it was. But she basically said she was going to go and do this and that they would see it needed to happen. The person was trying to talk them out of it, didn't know what they were going to do. But it was pretty bad. Somebody put it on Facebook, and I got to see it this morning, I believe.
And I hate to say it, guys, but I think we're going to have a skyrocketing number in transgender shootings. I think this is the start of something extremely tragic. We all know that these become trends and they don't end. and it's a copycat scenario.
There's been 5 of them, Rory, in the last couple months, man. With transgender.
Yeah, that's mainly all the shootings has happened.
There's been like 5 transgender shooters, like you just said, in the last couple of months. I mean, this is a pattern, and with all the media coverage that this is getting, especially with the legislation and bill that was passed in Tennessee regarding transgenders, this is gonna create a massive firestorm. People are there's already trannies on social media flaunting their guns.
And they're all zombied out on Big Pharma. Don't forget that, Rory.
And that's another thing that we need to be cautious of: the side effects. The way these people act out when they're taking these hormone treatments and all this other crazy shit.
Yes.
Anybody have any final thoughts? We're going to close out here, but anybody have any final thoughts on this? You have anything?
I feel like Steve Buscemi. I got a front row seat to the end of the world, because that's what's happening.
Who knew that this would be the kind of shit we would see in the end of time, the end of days. I mean, this is freaking, oh man. Matthew, tell everybody where they can find you.
Certainly you can find me here at the TheNexGenUSA.com network, and also I'm on Twitter.
Jim, tell everybody where they can find you.
Twitter, Facebook, got 11 books on Amazon.
Merk, tell everybody where they can find you.
Minutes with Merk, merging culture, politics, and faith on the Next Gen USA.
Pastor, tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, Lord, you sure you want me to say this? You can follow my YouTube channel for camping at We're On Our Way. Also, we're on Twitter and Truth at That. You can follow Rodney Evans Ministries. Also, our website is at .org. You can follow Go No Further, which is my political Twitter and stuff that I put political stuff on.
Sounds great, man. Sounds great. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode tonight. I'm Rory Sauter. We will see you all tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, God bless. Much love.